Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious. So if you're looking for some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, I just wanted something really quick and easy for dinner. So I had these pineapple and bacon chicken sausages. I got these, I think it was at Kroger on sale. And so I'm going to cook those up in the air fryer. And then I have this box of au gratin potatoes. I'm just going to cook those up according to the package instructions. And then here is my plate, really simple. I didn't want my sausages on a bun or anything. And then I have some of the au gratin potatoes. Gary ate later. He was at a meeting. And so when he came home, he ended up having his sausages on a hot dog bun with some ketchup, mustard, and relish, and that was our dinner that night. For dinner the next night, my mom and dad came over and we watched the animated Addams Family movie, and then I did a whole dinner themed around that. This video has already went up. I will link that in the description box below if you'd like to see how I made everything, but this was a really fun night and everything was really good. I had some ribs in my freezer that I got at a really good price, and so I pulled them out and thawed them. I cooked them up in the crock pot. I have shared this several times before my channel. I'll quickly walk you through it. So here I've got those ribs. I'm using the Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. Use your favorite. For the barbecue seasoning, I'm using some of the Buc-ee's barbecue rub. I got this the last time we were there. And then I'm also going to use some of the Kinder's Hickory Brown Sugar seasoning. Last but not least, I've got some liquid smoke. You only want to use a couple dashes of this. It gets very overwhelming very quickly. And then I forgot to include this, but I did add in a little bit of Coca-Cola, not a lot, just a little bit to give it a little steam, maybe like a quarter of a cup. If you don't want to use that, I mean, really, you can use any kind of soda, diet soda that you want, root beer. You could also use apple juice or apple cider. That would be delicious. I've actually done that before. So I removed the silvery membrane from the back of the ribs, rubbed it on all sides with those seasonings, popped it in the crock pot, added the barbecue sauce, the liquid smoke, the Coke, and then I cook this low and slow 8 to 10 hours until they are super tender. I do go in halfway through and rotate the ribs. So the ones that are on the top, I move to the bottom. The ones that were on the bottom, I move to the top. And then I pull those out, put them on a foil lined sheet, baste them with a little more barbecue sauce, and boil them for just a minute or two. For one of the sides, I'm making the plain chickens, ground beef, and baked bean casserole. Again, I've shared this before, but I'll quickly walk you through it. I'll also include the recipe link in the description box below for you. I halved the recipe. I've got a can of pork and beans, some minced onions, brown sugar, ketchup, Dijon mustard, salt, pepper, and then the recipe calls for pre-cooked bacon to be put on top. I didn't have any, so I'm just using bacon pieces. And then here in this little Ziploc baggie, I've got some ground beef that I had previously browned and frozen, so I've just thawed that. I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees. I have a greased little baking dish here. I just added everything to that baking dish. Now, obviously, if you're not using already browned ground beef like I am, you'll need to brown that up, drain it, and then proceed. So I'm just mixing everything together. I sprinkled the bacon pieces on top. This is going to get covered with aluminum foil and bake for about 45 minutes until it is thick and bubbly. For the other side, I made my homemade macaroni and cheese. Again, I've shared this before. I'll quickly walk you through it and type out my recipe in the description box below for you. I've got some all-purpose flour, smoked paprika, evaporated milk. I'm using cavatappi tonight. I really like that. I feel like it holds on to the sauce really well, but use whatever kind of pasta you want. Just regular elbow macaroni is just fine. Onion powder, garlic powder, not pictured as salt and pepper, but I'm going to add that, some butter. And then for the cheeses, really every time I make this, I use different cheeses just based on what I have on hand. I had this Gouda cheese, some of this cheddar, and then just a few slices of some Munster cheese that I bought from the Amish. So like I said, check the recipe down below to see how I put this together, but I just mixed it up and then baked it, and this is what it looked like when it was done. So creamy and cheesy. And then last but not least, I really wanted the Famous Dave's cornbread muffins, and I had a box of the mix in my pantry. And so I just made that up according to the package instructions. Here is my plate. Once again, Gary ate later than I did. His looked exactly the same, just maybe a little bit more of everything. We've got the ribs, the mac and cheese, the beans. Oh, I lie. He didn't eat the beans. He just had the ribs, the macaroni and cheese, and the cornbread muffin. But this was so good. Those ribs had so much flavor. They were so tender. The macaroni and cheese was so creamy and cheesy. Delicious. Next up, I made Sloppy Joes. I used the Pioneer Woman's recipe, which I'll link down in the description box below for you. Normally, I have this recipe, but I did almost the full recipe. I think she uses like 2.5 pounds or 2.25 pounds of ground beef, and I used 2, but I pretty much used her recipe. So here in this skillet, I've got some ground beef along with some finely chopped bell pepper and onion, seasoned it with a little bit of salt and pepper. Once it was good and brown and those vegetables were tender, I'm going to drain off the fat. I just used a paper towel to do that. Now I am going to add in some garlic, cook that for about 30 seconds. And of course, like with everything else, you're in your kitchen, you make things how you want. If you don't want to add in the bell peppers, don't. If you don't want to add in the onions, don't. If you want to add more, add them. So once I've cooked that garlic for 30 seconds or a minute, I'm going to add in some tomato paste, cook that for about a minute. Then I'm going to add in my seasoning. So I'm adding in some chili powder, some dried ground mustard, and then a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm going to give that a really good mix. Once again, cook it for just a minute or two just to kind of allow those spices to bloom. At this point, I'm going to add in my ketchup, followed by some water. I mean, you could use beef broth if you wanted to, but I'm just going to stick with water. Adding in a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce, followed by brown sugar. I'm going to give that one last final stir, and then that's it. This is going to simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes or so. This is what it looked like when it was done. And I forgot to mention, I made the full recipe of hers because my little brother, he was spending the weekend with us. It was his 17th birthday, and so he spent the weekend with us. So here I've got some hamburger buns. I'm going to butter and toast those up. I've got these crispy rounds from Walmart. I'm going to cook those in the air fryer, and I'm going to use this Steak and Shake seasoning on those crispy rounds. And then, yeah, here is the plate. I've got the toasted bun, the Sloppy Joes, the crispy rounds, and I dipped my rounds in a little bit of ketchup. And my little brother and Gary had cheese on their Sloppy Joes, and that was our dinner that night. For dinner the next night, I asked my little brother what he wanted. He wanted Taco Bell. I did not get a picture. I apologize, but we just got it and then sat in front of the TV and vegged out, while we were watching TV. And so it didn't even occur to me to take a picture. I apologize about that. But I got their new steak gordita tacos with some chips and cheese. My brother got a chicken quesadilla along with their beef nachos with no guacamole, no pico. And then Gary got one of the little boxes that they have. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's like the Lux box or something like that. It's like less than $8. And he got their crunch wrap, a beefy burrito, and then their cheesy fiesta potatoes and a drink. And that was our dinner that night. For dinner the next night, this was also a request of my brother. I'd asked him what he wanted, and he requested French toast. I will put the recipe that I used in the description box below. I don't remember if I've shared it before on my channel or not. I've used this recipe in the past. It's from All Recipes, I believe. So here's everything that I'm going to use to make it. You can check that recipe down below to see the exact measurements. I've got some milk. You can use any kind of milk. Almond milk. You could do heavy cream. You could use leftover coffee creamer. You can also do this with eggnog. I've done that before, and it's really good. I've got some sugar, and this is where this recipe is a little bit different. This calls for flour, which you might think is a little bit odd, but it makes the French toast really fluffy. Vanilla extract, some salt, cinnamon, eggs, and then literally you can use whatever kind of bread you've got. Whatever, if you've got something that's kind of getting a little hard, like maybe some crusty Italian bread or French bread, if you've got some of the swirl bread, sourdough, croissants, English muffin, literally whatever kind of bread you want. I'm using some Texas toast. So I just combined pretty much everything except for the bread into a blender, blended it up really well. Here is my little station. You can see I've got my bread, that dipping mixture, and then a skillet. This is on medium heat. I'm going to add a little bit of butter and then cook the French toast for a couple minutes on each side until the egg custard in the bread is completely cooked all the way through and the toast toast is golden brown. This was my brother's plate. Mine looked pretty much exactly the same, except I just had one piece of French toast, 2 of the little triangles. I've got the French toast. I sprinkled some powdered sugar on top of it. He requested bacon, so I've got some of that. And then I had some strawberries in the fridge I needed to use up, so I served that. And then, of course, we had some maple syrup to drizzle over the French toast. So for the last dinner in this week's video, my brother requested homemade pizzas. So here I just set everything out, all kinds of toppings. I literally just raided the fridge and pantry. This particular night, Gary, my brother, if you've been with me for a while, I've mentioned this the past several years, they've kind of got a little tradition going, usually around or on my brother's birthday. He'll spend the weekend with us, and then they go and do this like haunted hayride zombie paintball thing. And so that's what they did this night. And so I just set everything out. I took the pizza crust. I got this, I think at Kroger. It was a 14-ounce pizza crust thin, and I just divided it into thirds. I par-baked the pizza crust, and then I had everything sitting out, and so when they got home from that, they made their pizzas, and then we finished baking them off in the oven, and I set out a whole bunch of veggies that I had, again, just braided the fridge with some blue cheese and ranch dressing, and that's what we had for dinner. I also set out some toppings for our pizza, so I did like some Parmesan cheese, red pepper flakes, some hot honey, and then this pizza seasoning. And yeah, that was our dinner that night. Forgot to get a picture of Gary's pizza, but he kind of did like all the toppings. My brother did a ranch base, and then he did like cheddar cheese, I think, and mozzarella cheese, some pepperoni and sausage, and I believe he did bacon as well. Mine, I did pizza sauce, mozzarella, I did pepperoni, and then on half of my pizza, I did some sausage. The other half of my pizza, I did pineapple, and then I topped mine with the hot honey, the Parmesan, and that pizza seasoning. And yeah, it was a delicious, quick and easy dinner. And my brother thought it was really cool to be able, to make the pizza however he wanted. And Gary, I thought Gary had made homemade pizza with me before, but he said he hadn't. So he actually really enjoyed being able to make it his own too. So this would be fun, I think, to do, especially like for Halloween. Have the kiddos over, and you can have everything set out and just let them make the pizzas the way that they want to. All right, that is it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.